What's up, guys? My name is DJ Swivel, and on this week's episode of In the Mix, I'm going to be breaking down Pretty Lil Thing by Aria. But before we get started, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell, do what you gotta do. Run the intro.
DJ Swivel
in the mix.
What's up, guys? My name is DJ Swivel, and we're back for another episode of In the Mix. And on this week's episode, I'm going to be breaking down my mix of Pretty Lil Thing by Aria. Aria is a rapper who I've been working with for a number of years, actually. This is his latest single. I mixed it. I did a little bit of co-writing on it, and it was produced by a producer named Stoney. And you'll notice it's a fairly simple production. There is 5 drum tracks, there's a bass track, there's a melody loop, there's this vocal scream thing I added as a little sound effect. We've got a producer tag here, and then 2 lead vocal tracks, an ad-lib track, and a couple background tracks. So very simple. And the theme of this mix is really, how do you get a nice wide mix out of source files that, there isn't a lot of stereo information. So this will be a recurring theme as I break this down. As with all mixes, we start here with our system usage. We're using 27 voices. Remember, each stereo track is 2 voices. Each mono track is 1. So we're using 27 voices throughout this whole track. It's a very, very simple production. But simple does not mean bad or anything like that. Simple can be great. Some of the best songs ever are very simple in execution. Okay, so let's dig right in. As with most mixes, I tend to mix linearly. So I start with the kick, work my way down with the rest of the drum tracks, add bass, add the melody, start adding vocals. That's how we do it. Okay, so let's dig right in. Here's our kick track. Let me take everything off. It sounds like this. And here's with everything on. So a little heavier, a little more attack. What are we doing to get there? Okay, well, to start, let me take all 3 except for this Brainworks off. We have BX Boom. This adds some very low frequency information. I'm in the low setting. My guess is it's around 60 hertz, maybe 40 hertz, but it's doing some weird kind of subharmonic stuff. So let's hear what this sounds like without, and then I'll add with. And now with. You can hear a lot more subby, a lot more low end. Then we have a compressor, and we're adding a little bit of punch, so it should add a little more thumpiness to the attack of it. Let's hear what this sounds like without. And now with. Very subtle. You'll notice the mix on this compressor is at about 10%. It's really not trying to over compress it. It's just trying to bring out some of the transients a bit. Okay? Then we have a little EQ, and I'm pushing some of the higher frequencies. Now, you're thinking, why are you pushing, over 2K on a kick drum? Well, all elements of mix typically have like a fairly wide frequency spectrum. Obviously, for kicks, the majority of the information is in the lows, but that doesn't mean there is no high information. And so in the context of the mix, I wanted to bring out some of the higher frequency information so that if you're listening on earbuds, the kick is still going to cut through, because the earbuds aren't always going to, represent 60 hertz, 80 hertz all that well. And so we push some of this so that, you feel the kick even on speakers or headphones that aren't, representing bass frequencies all that well. All right, so what's it doing? Let's hear it without. And now with. So we're getting more punchiness here with the 178 hertz. We are getting more high frequency attack with this like over 2K. And then we're just cutting out some 50 hertz, 49 hertz, just a little bit. It was getting a little too boomy, I guess. Okay, and finally, we finish it off with another very light compressor. Let's hear without. And now with. So it adds a little more attack to that transient. It pops out a little more. but fairly simple stuff. So again, let's bypass everything. So a pretty dramatic shift to the kick. All right, moving on. We have a clap. Simple clap. We heard it all before. Let's remove this. And what do we have on there? Fresh air. We're just adding some high frequency information. So let's hear it now. And without. So it's subtle, but it does bring out a little more of the high frequency information. Okay, we have a rim shot, nothing on it, simple. And we have some hi-hats, also with a fresh air on it, bringing some high frequency attack out. Let me bypass it and then I'll add it. Okay, here we go. Pretty dramatic shift to the hi-hat, much brighter, and also by increasing that brightness, we're also like pushing more of the attack. We're getting a more aggressive, attacky hi-hat with that little shift. Okay, now we have an open hi-hat, which I believe, yeah, 1818, which is the same setting as we had on the previous one. Trying to get them to blend. Let's hear what that sounds without, and now with. So similar, just bringing some of the high frequency out of that open hat. Now let's hear all the drums together. Cool. There we go. Now we add a bass. Now one thing on the kick, you'll notice I have a send. I'm sending to key 1 right here, key 1. And that's basically just sending the entire volume of the kick so that, you know, as a sidechain trigger. And you'll notice what we do on the bass with that. Okay, let's hear the bass by itself with nothing on it. I like this bass. It's a Moogie bass. There's a bit of stereo information in there. But what I love about it is the beginning of each note, it almost sounds like an 808, where you start at a high frequency and you very quickly pitch down. It's not an 808, of course. For those of you who don't know, the way that you actually build an 808 as a file, I know it just sounds like a boom, like a long kind of subby, attacky kind of kick thing. But actually the way you make an 808 is you start by pitching it up an octave or two, and then dramatically and very quickly, as soon as you trigger that hit, it'll drop down. And the speed at which it drops down, that determines what the attack of your 808 feels like. And 808s are typically much quicker. This is a little slower. That's why you actually hear it bend. But anyways, it's a similar trick to what 808s do. So I like that. It makes the bass feel a little more unique and not quite as simple as a plain, you know, sine wave keyboard with nothing else happening. Okay, so what do we have on it? We have an R bass. Let's hear what that does. Let's add it. Oh yeah, add some nice low frequency information around 80 hertz. And then we have the sidechain compressor. Let's, this you'll hear right away. So let me just take it off. You'll hear, as the kicks are triggered, you'll see the sidechain duck. So why do we do that? Well, really just to make room for the kick. The bass and the kick, you know, share frequencies. And so we want to make sure that when that kick hits, you know, it's a hip hop record. It's got a punch. You got to feel it in your chest. And so we do some ducking of the bass so that those frequencies aren't overlapping and fighting with one another. So we make room for the kick. Okay, now let's listen to the drums and the bass all together, and maybe you'll actually listen carefully for the ducking of the bass every time that kick drum hits. So it's definitely there. You hear it, it makes room, and definitely helps with just getting the feel of these drums right. Okay, moving on. Now we have this kind of melody track, and it's just a single stereo track with all of the instruments in it. It's a new thing, not that new, but a lot of new producers are like just working on melodies, right? So they'll make like melody loops and send them around to other producers to kind of finish and get placed and whatnot. And so I'm not sure where this came from, if Stoney made it himself, if there was, he was working with somebody else who made the loop or what have you. But either way, it's a single loop. It could also be, partially pulled from, a splice or one of those places. But either way, it sounds great. And this is what it sounds like with nothing on it. And then we will, this we don't actually need. And let's hear what it's doing. Now I'm going to add the plugins. So what is going on? Well, we are doing some stereo imaging. As I mentioned earlier, this is a fairly simple production. And all of these drums are largely mono. The hi-hat might be panned off to the side a bit, but largely mono. And so because we only have the loop, I need to find a way to sort of fill the stereo image and give a really like dramatic, almost three-dimensional mix out of something that doesn't have a ton of stereo information. So we are enhancing the stereo field with my plugin Spread. We've got it set to 34% across all frequency bands. And then we have a little bit of resonance suppression around where the guitar is hitting. So let me take that off. Let's start with Spread and hear what that's doing. Now let's add it. So definitely wraps around, all the drums and everything that's in kind of the middle. And of course the lead vocal. And then listen specifically around that guitar, that kind of like Daft Punky kind of, funky guitar. There was some high frequency, mid-high kind of resonating frequencies that were a little bit irritating. And so this is solving that. So let's hear it. So it just softens that guitar a little bit and makes it not quite as like aggressive on the ears, let's call it. Okay, so that's all we've got going on that track. And then we have this vocal scream track, which I'll play you where it sounds like now, and then we'll work our way back and figure out how we got there. Okay, here we go. Okay, sounds pretty cool. Sounds like a synth. It's actually my vocal. Let's hear how we got there. Let's take everything off and hear it raw. So this is just a pitch down version of this to land in the right key. But this is just my voice kind of just doing a little like whoop or whatever. What do we have on it? We have an auto tune just to lock it right in the key. There's no note changing. I want it right on the note. I'm not the best singer in the world. Let's hear it. Okay. Then we have a instance of BDE, my distortion plugin. If you don't have it, make sure you go to djswivel.com, download it, get the free demo. It's an incredible, incredible distortion. What are we doing? We have it on the nuke setting. And again, let's hear it without the distortion. And now with. So you get a really aggressive distortion. We're doing some compression, some bit crushing. We're filtering out some of the frequencies, and we are pushing a little over 13 dB on the nuke setting. So there we go, BDE for you. And then we have a large reverb, a concert hall, Valhalla vintage verb. Let's hear what that adds without and with. Again, going back to space, this needs a lot of space. So I've got this nice, big, wide, loud reverb, and that helps just build out the stereo image in a song that didn't have a lot of stereo stuff. Most things in the song were kind of mono. And then we have a high-pass filter, and let's hear what that's doing. Without, and now with. Simple stuff. We're just thinning it out a bit. We don't want it to fight with any of the lower frequency stuff, and it's just sitting on top anyways, so we just filter out everything we don't need. Okay, so here's how they both sound with everything on. And it really does sound like a synth. Okay. Now we have these two Stony. This is just a producer tag, nothing on it. Just did some editing so that it all lined up correctly. Changed the timing of it to match the tempo of the song. And nothing exciting there. Okay, now let's go to the lead vocal. Well, before we get into the lead, let's first look at the audio editing that was done, because this is really key. Let me just make this much larger. E. Okay, this looks like craziness. I don't think it needs to be this big. Let's just, make it something visible that we can all see. Okay, so there's a ton of editing to this song, to the vocal. Some of it's just like getting the timing perfect. Most of it is just volume automation. So, if this word here was a little bit quiet, we turn it up a bit. This was a little quiet, we turn it up. This thing here, I'm guessing a breath was a little loud, we turn it down. Here's an S sound, a little loud, we turn it down. All I'm doing here is like massaging the vocal and just like lining everything up the way that we want so that in context, it all sounds great. So we start with that, all of our vocal editing. Then we go through our normal vocal channel. So he's singing on this song. We have some light auto-tune, 20 on the retune speed. The song is in E flat minor. Let me take everything from the song off. And so we got auto-tune. Then we have a de-esser. Let's just hear the raw vocal.
Girl, I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing. Trying to spend my money, she love pretty little things. Making all that noise, but her mouth stay quiet.
Cool. So now we have the auto-tune.
Girl, I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing.
Now the de-esser.
Girl, I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing.
Now you'll notice we're just getting a little bit of de-essing, but that's because there was a lot of sibilants that we addressed throughout the song. Let me see if I can find one just as an example. Aria tends to be a fairly sibilant artist when he raps, and so we want to take some of that out. Here's a good example. Here's minus almost 9 dB on this S sound. Let's hear it.
Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little.
Right? So, this just felt way too loud to me.
Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing.
In context of the whole song, because he tends to be fairly sibilant. So we wanted to, just tame all that so it didn't feel too SC throughout. Okay. So then we have an SSL channel. Just basic EQing, filtering out the lows, a little bit of compression, boosting 8K a bit, getting rid of some of this high mids around 2.5K, and also getting rid of some of the boxiness around 500 hertz. About 1 dB. Yep, 500 hertz on the nose. Let's hear what that does.
Girl, I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing. Trying to spend my money, she love pretty little things. Make it.
So much brighter, much more in front, feels more hi-fi now. Okay, now we add this RVox, just a compressor. Let's see what that does.
Girl, I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing. Trying to spend my money, she love pretty little things.
So brings that vocal to the forefront, definitely helpful. Then we have this vitalizer, and I'm doing mostly just some high frequency kind of like exciter stuff with it. So we've boosted this high frequency EQ bit and also this mid-high one a bit as well. So let's hear that without.
Girl, I like to see you try. Yeah, make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing. Trying to spend my money, she love pretty little things. Make it all.
Just brings some of the brightness and shininess out of the vocal. Then now we've added a bunch of bright stuff. Now we need to tame just some of the extra annoying parts of that. And so we're using Soothe for that. And we're just mostly pushing, I think this is a default setting, honestly. We're mostly pushing around 5K, although I do have the mix turned down and the depth turned down. So we're not going quite as hard. And the setting is soft. So let's hear what that does.
Girl, I like to see you try. Yeah, make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing. Trying to spend my money, she love pretty little things. Making all that noise, but her mouth stay quiet.
Just helps smooth out the vocal. Then we have another de-esser, just catching anything that managed to make it through. Let's hear what that's doing.
Mouth stay quiet, wanna play with me, girl, I like to see you try. Make her...
Just addressing some of the S's, nothing crazy. And then we finally have an EQ. And you'll ask, well, you already did a high pass filter on the SSL channel, right? I did a high pass up to 150 hertz. Why are you doing it again? Well, here's something that not everybody knows. Plugins often will add low frequency information. They do this for a number of reasons. Sometimes it's just about adding a warmth to your sound. You're like, ooh, that sounds warm. That sounds nice. Well, a lot of times plugins are adding this low frequency information just to create a patina, an aesthetic to their sound, even if that low frequency information is not inherently important to whatever effect you're using. And so I don't know which one did, but something added some low frequency information. My guess is this vitalizer. And so we're just cutting some of that out. Only down 70 hertz, everything below 70 hertz. So let's see.
Mouth stay quiet, wanna play with me, girl, I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing.
So just some of that low, low, low. Now, at the end of the day, you'll ask, well, is it really changing that much? No, not really. But even if you do that across your whole track on a bunch of things and you manage to make enough room, for, like just a little bit more room for the bass and the kick, you're going to have a track that hits a little bit harder. You're going to get more volume out of the track. You'll have less of that low frequency information covering up the kick and the bass. So even though it's not loud and not the most important thing, you know, if you have 10 tracks that are all doing that, it adds up. And so you just want to address that along the way. All right. So that is what we're doing on the hook track. Now let's listen to the effects. So our general reverb is this plate reverb, the B reverb. What do we have on that? We have a Valhalla plate, 2.6 second decay. And we are doing a little bit of EQing, just a soft roll off on the top and getting rid of everything below 123 hertz on the bottom. Let's hear what this reverb is doing.
Girl, I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing. Trying to spend my money, she love pretty little things. Making all that noise, but
nice transparent reverb, doesn't have too long of a decay at all. Then we also have another reverb, this A reverb. But the trick with this one is it is not throughout the entire song. It's only in certain sections. So it's not at all in the first hook, but in the second hook, it is. Now you'll ask, well, why is there so much in the second hook? Here's why. Because we do a drum drop here where we have no bass and no drums. All we have is the melody. And so we want to fill up more of the stereo field and fill up more of the just general what's happening in your two bus and your mix, and just give the section just a little bit of a difference. You know, give your brain something to feel surprised about, like, oh, the vocal changed. That's interesting. So let's hear how that works. Here's the vocal without it.
girl, I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing.
And now let's add it.
Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing. Trying to spend my money, she love pretty little things.
Much bigger, right? Now let's hear it when it's in context of the whole mix.
Swag like the hunters inside, but she love that bass. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing. Trying to spend my money, she love pretty little things. Making all that noise, but her mouth stay quiet.
So it's really filling up the space in that section. And now I cut it off a little early, but once the drums come in, we leave some of it, but not all of it. We drop it down. So I want you to pay attention to this hook lead vocal. I'll play from about halfway through, and you'll hear the large reverb up until here, and then you're going to see it ducks out and gets, it's not dry, but it gets a little bit drier. So let's hear it.
She look pretty little things, making all that noise, but her mouth stay quiet. Wanna play with me, girl, I like to see you try. Make a boy love me, she my pretty little thing. I be in the club with them pretty little things, I be...
So there's obviously still reverb there, but it gets much smaller, and that allows room for the drums to come in. So everything has to work in context. There's no such thing as set it and forget it. You know, you want, especially with vocals, you want it to like kind of surf the song, and no wave is stagnant. It's always up and down, right? Okay. What else do we have? We have a long delay that's on the entire vocal. Let's hear what that's doing.
Girl, I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing. Trying to spend my money, she look pretty little things. Making all that noise, but her mouth stay quiet.
You can hear it ring out. You can tell it's filtered, and it's got some reverb on it. So how do we get that? We have a quarter note delay. We're filtering out, well, first of all, we have the lo-fi setting on this H delay. I love this. This basically cuts out everything, I think, above 6K. And then we have a low pass, you know, cutting out everything above 1.5K. And then we have a high pass, just cutting out the lows, everything below 364 hertz. And that gives us our main reverb sound. Then I add this doubler on it to make sure that the reverb doesn't land on itself. So let me actually take, let me leave the delay on. Let me take these two things off, and let me solo the lead vocal. And in fact, I'm also going to mute the reverb so you can really hear what I'm talking about here. So when I play this, you're going to hear just the delay, but the delay is going to be perfectly centered, and it's going to land on top of the lead vocal. So listen to that.
Girl, I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing. Trying to spend my money, she look pretty little things. Make...
Right? Lands right on the lead vocal. To me, that can actually fight with the lead vocal a bit. So I like to just put a doubler on it so that it just kind of wraps around the lead vocal and doesn't quite feel so narrow. So we put this doubler on. Now, there is still some center information. You see some center information here, but we add some wider information, some left and right to the delay return so that it doesn't feel like it's fighting with the lead vocal as much. So I will leave this bypass, I'll play it, and then about a bar in, I will unbypass it and listen to the difference in the delay return.
Girl, I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me, she my pretty little thing.
Here we go.
Trying to spend my money, she look pretty little things. Making all that noise, but her mouth stay quiet. Wanna play with me, girl, I like to see you try.
You can feel that delay return kind of wraps around the vocal now, which is great. Now we have more space for it, and you hear it gets louder without it actually getting louder. Okay, then we send that entire return to this A reverb, and we're sending a lot, and that's what gives us that washy feeling. Let's play the end so you can hear how it echoes out.
Down the street, she ain't 10 degrees minus it.
So definitely airier. And the whole point of this song was like, I wanted a vibey feel, something that you could just roll down the street to, you know, when it's dark out, you know, you got your windows tinted, you got maybe have like the window cracked and you have the song kind of bouncing. It's just like one of those kind of driving down Sunset vibes. That's what I was feeling when I was mixing it. So I was trying to, you know, it's got a dark feel to it. So I was trying to just add these like kind of darker elements and having that reverb kind of spread out. I don't know, it just softens it and made it more like a track you could just kind of vibe out to. Nothing too like overly dramatic or overly pop. But it is definitely a pop mix, but it's a hip hop record. So we try to find that balance, that rhythmic leaning feel. Okay. What else do we have? We have a slap delay and a doubler. The best way to hear that is let me take all of the time-based things off, and I'll just add them. The slap delay adds like a left and right kind of slap at 55, 65 milliseconds, and then the doubler is around 7 to 10 milliseconds, something like that. They work in tandem, so listen to the vocal and hear what it does. It's subtle, but it just makes the vocal feel a little bit bigger. Here we go.
Girl, I like to see you try. Yeah, make her wanna love me. She my pretty little thing.
All right, here we go.
Spend my money.
2,
She like pretty
3.
little things, making all that noise, but her mouth stay quiet. Wanna play with me, girl? I like to see you try. Make her wanna love me. She my pretty little thing. I be in the club with them pretty little things.
So it just makes the vocal feel a little bit bigger, but it's very, very subtle. Okay, and then finally, what's our last send? We have this throw, and that's just on certain words. All of these words, we are doing a delay throw. So let's put everything on and listen to the vocal in context and hear what it sounds like. Here we go. Oh.
She a pretty little thing with the pretty little things. That noise, stay quiet.
Big stone.
Girl, I like to see you try. Yeah, make her wanna love me. She my pretty little thing.
And as you can hear, it's panning left and right. All right, so how do we achieve that throw? Let's hear it. Well, we have an H delay. It's an eighth note this time. We have the lo-fi on, filtering out up to 3.5K, so a little over 3K. We do some stereo, adding some doubler, just creating a little bit of a stereo image. And then we have this panner, and this panner is just like panning hard left, hard right, slowly, so that the delay is kind of moving around. Again, going back to the idea of this whole song had a lot of narrow elements and not a lot of stereo. So all these small brushstrokes to increase the stereo image all help, even on ad-libs and delay throws and all that sort of stuff. Creating some sort of stereo movement just gives your brain something to have to focus on and listen to, and it becomes a little more interesting, a little more dynamic. And that's what we like out of simple songs. You can always find a way to add dynamics to something quite simple. So that's what we're doing. It's a 1-bar rhythm, and it just kind of pans left and right on that 1 bar. Let me play it one more time. I'll just play this end word so you can hear it.
Stay quiet.
It's just kind of, again, panning left and right softly. And that's kind of throughout the whole song. Different levels for each one, but all the way through we have some of these delay throws, just in the areas that are needed. Okay, that's our hook lead. Let's minimize that. And let's switch back to volume view. And let's switch back to waveform view. And then we have our rap lead, which is largely the same, except for one thing. We have some automation on this track, and this basically creates a radio sound. And if you have Pro Q3, I'm literally just using the phone setting. There's like a phone preset. Fairly straightforward. And where does it happen? It happens right here. So let's hear it in context.
So iced out, think I might freeze. And shorty walk around like she's a PYT. Hey, wait, yeah. Don't talk to me.
So that's where the radio comes in, just for that, hey, wait, yeah. And then we have a little delay throw on that as well. So let's hear that again.
PYT. Hey, wait, yeah. Don't talk to me.
There we go. Okay. Also, another thing you'll notice, this A reverb, we do have some automation on it. So in the beginning of the verse, none of it, completely dry. Then in this next section, we add the A reverb more because the kind of section changes a bit, and we have this A waitcha, which kind of breaks up the two sections. So the first 4 bars to the next 4 bars. So let's hear in context, just pay attention to the reverb on this first verse lead. Here we go.
Think I might freeze, and shorty walk around like she's a PYT. Hey, wait, yeah. Don't talk to me unless you got some smoke that you brought for me. I hear those voices calling me. You the only one left that's stopping me. She's a bad little thing. She about 5'3".
And then when the drums come back in here, or the kick drum comes back in, we just lower it a little bit so that it changes again here, and then kind of it rides out for the next 8 bars of the verse. Okay, so some little, the phone filter stuff, the reverb automation, the delay throws, all that stuff adds a little bit of dynamics and just gives the song a little bit more of a vibe. Okay, so that's our verse lead. Then we have this ad-lib bus. You can ignore most of this stuff. This is just your typical, or at least my typical vocal chain that we just saw up here. In fact, I'm sure it's all the same things kind of copied over. But where we get interesting is on, this is running through a bus, ad-lib bus. Here's our output right here. So we go ad-libs, and then we have our input set to ad-libs, and that's how we run in Pro Tools from an audio track into a bus. Now I'm doing some additional processing on the bus. So let's hear the ad-libs.
Jeans, clean, nice things. Think I might freeze. Pink white tee.
So you'll notice it's kind of like telephoned out. There's some reverb on it. There's some delay on it. And it's panning left and right. The whole thing is panning left and right. Subtly, but still panning. Again, going back to what I said before, we're trying to create more stereo image on this song because there wasn't a lot to begin with. All right, so most of this you don't have to worry about. Simple, just some EQing, making it a little brighter so that they poke out a bit more. Then this is the main thing. We're just filtering off everything below 3K or above 3K and everything below 422 hertz. That gives us our radio feel. Then we have this Valhalla vintage verb, 2.37 second decay time on the default setting, concert hall, and there's a 12% on the mix. Then we push the stereo image of it, so how wide that reverb is, we push that out nice and wide. Then we just do some soothing to just some of the frequencies that were annoying. Anytime that you do sort of these are just compressors. Anytime you do a radio sound, you will ultimately start to hear more of the resonating frequencies. And so that's what Soothe is doing, is just addressing some of those. Then again, same thing. There was 2 more resonating frequencies that were kind of just annoying me, 1700 and 2K, a little over 2K. So I'm just cutting those out a bit. And then finally we have our panning. That is a 2-bar pan, very slowly, and shifts. And it's not a hard pan. It doesn't go all the way to the edge. But just gives some movement to those ad-libs, which is key. And we don't have any additional reverb on the ad-libs. You'll see the B is bypassed. I can, in fact, just get rid of it because we already have the reverb directly printed on it. And the reason I did that is I wanted the reverb to pan with it. I wanted the whole space to move. It's a little more dramatic than if I had the reverb as a send and just had the vocal moving, because what it's doing is it's moving, but it's still in the same space as the reverb. In this case, we're actually panning the reverb return. And then, we have our delay and we have our doublers and stuff, and we have our throws in the instances where we need them. Okay, moving on. Finally, we have these hook tracks. We have these 2 at the bottom is just stacks, and they're panned hard left and right. This one's panned 100 left. This one's panned 100 right. And just add some nice backgrounds in the hook to kind of give it a lift. So let's hear what those are doing. I'll mute it, and then I'll add it.
Make a boy love me, she my pretty little thing. I be in the club with the pretty little things. I be so loud.
So just adding those backgrounds to add the emphasis on certain words. Let's solo them just so you can hear what they're sounding like.
She my pretty little thing. Club with the pretty little things.
Now you'll see that P I cut out. That's just a volume automation there, because he's got a P sound here, and those like kind of if the pop filter that you're using doesn't pick those up, they can be a bit annoying to deal with. It's like low frequency air. And so I just cut that out here so that the one on the lead vocal can live by itself. Okay, and then we have this other doubler track, or double track. It's not really doubled. There's some auto-tune on it. It's all running through my normal standard bus, but I'm using Spread, again, my plugin, to just give it some stereo image. So let's hear it without.
Stay quiet. Like to see you try.
And with.
Stay quiet. Like to see you try.
Just gives a nice stereo image. Again, trying to create, fill in that missing gap that was there. And that's kind of it. We have a simple fade out at the end. I I will go through the master bus. Before we touch the master bus, I want to show you this. Over here, I am using Heat. Now, I use this in a lot of my mixes. This is built into Pro Tools, which is wonderful. It's basically some, saturation. It's kind of like tape saturation. But because it's built into Pro Tools, it comes by default on every track. And I can bypass them all. You'll see they all bypass. And then here's my settings for it. So it's like a global plugin that Pro Tools has. So now that you've seen that, I'll play the mix. I'll hit play, and I'll keep it on bypass, and then I'll add it so you can hear what Heat is doing.
So loud, but the mouth stay quiet. Speak straight down the street, chain 10 degrees mindset. Hard white jeans, breath so clean. And she get close to me, cause she love nice things. Heart so iced out, think I might freeze. And shorty walk around like she's a PYT. Hey, wait, yeah. Don't talk to me, unless you got some smoke that you brought for me. I hear those voices calling me.
It almost gives like 1 dB or so of like added volume, but it's less volume. It's just kind of filling out, essentially you're just doing some very low level distortion. You're just kind of driving it through some sort of tape saturation algorithm. And we're adding a little bit of brightness on the tone as well. Okay, so that's what Heat is doing. And then let's just see what we have on our master. I use this all the time, the FGX from Slate. Just on Steven's Mastering Hard. We're pushing the high frequency transients a bit, also a little bit on the low, and it just helps bring the song to life. Let's hear it without. Let me take both off, actually.
So loud, but the mouth stay quiet. Speak straight down the street, chain 10 degrees mindset. Hard white jeans, breath so clean. And she get close to me, cause she love nice things. Heart so iced out, think I might freak.
So you can hear some of the low punch stuff and some of the detail stuff. There is about a dB or even less, basically at the loudest, probably about a dB of compression happening as well. Just very slightly kissing the compressor just to kind of control the song. Then finally we have an Ozone 8. And what are we doing on that? Well, we have this multiband dynamics. So we're doing some, mid-side compression across 4 different frequency spectrums. Then we have an imager, also 4-band. We're fanning out the high frequencies a little bit wider, the high mids a little less than that. The low mids we're not touching, and then the lows, just in case, we are narrowing the stereo field on those lows. Then we have this vintage tape thing. This is kind of like Heat too, but a little more subtle, and I just drive it a little bit. I just like the feeling of it. It gives it a more kind of vintage feel, even though I'm mixing it in a very modern pop way. Sometimes you want to introduce some of that vintageness just for vibe. Spectral shaper, this is just getting rid of some of the low frequencies. Not completely getting rid, more just compressing them. And then finally we have our mastering EQ, just boosting some of the punchiness here, just over 1K, probably 120, 117. Yeah. Getting rid of some of the boxiness around, 500, 469, and then adding some high frequency at 10K. All right. So let's bypass both of these, and it'll be subtle, but you'll hear what is going on the mastering. Here we go.
Little things making all that noise, but the mouth stay quiet. Wanna play with me, girl, I like to see you try. Make a boy love me, she my pretty little thing. I be in the club with the pretty little things. I be so loud, but the mouth stay quiet. Speak straight down the street, chain 10 degrees mindset. Hard white jeans, breath so clean. And she get close to me, cause she love nice things. Heart so iced out, think I might freeze. And shorty walk around like she.
It just brings it to life. It's very subtle, but you get a little brightness, you get a little punchiness, you get a little image, you get a little bit of everything that just kind of polishes up the song and gets us to our final destination. Normally when I send mixes out, I would have this Pro L on here. As I'm going through the back and forth, every artist thinks that, their song's not loud enough, so I'll do my kind of limiting here. And then as soon as I'm ready to send this to mastering, I will get rid of this. and send it to mastering like this. But I will always leave these two things on because this is not making it louder. Maybe incrementally louder, but it is mostly just a polish to get the song to the final place I want it to be. Colin Leonard at Sing Mastering mastered this song for me. I love Colin. He does a lot of my music, and he did a great job on this one. So if you like the song, it's on Spotify. The name is Aria. It's called Pretty Lil Thing. I will leave it in the comment box below, or the description box below. And other than that, yeah, here's an example of a simple song, a simple mix, but adding a lot of like subtle complexities to give it some depth, give it some image, give it some size, and just make it feel like a three-dimensional, much bigger mix. So again, it's not about these large brush strokes. A lot of tiny brush strokes get you to the final masterpiece. So there we have it. That's in the mix for this week. I'm DJ Swivel, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
I be in the club with the pretty little things. I be so loud, but the mouth stay quiet. Speak straight down the street, change 10 degrees, mindset. Hard white jeans, breath so